So today we're going to be talking about why Democrats are pretty much losing overall when it comes to the generic ballot polls. So first of all, why they are losing traction, my bad. So first of all, when we were in December, the Democrats had a near 15-point advantage over the Republican Party when it came to the generic ballot. And this was at their all-time high. At this point in time, many political pundits had estimated that the Democrats would take over 240 seats in the United States House of Representatives. However, it has since narrowed down to around 6-point lead over the Republicans. So from around 13 to 14% over Republicans down to only 6. Something changed, and what changed was pretty much the president of the United States and the way that Democrats have been campaigning. So obviously the president's approval rating is going up. Definitely his talks with North Korea, his talks with multiple countries, and pretty much overall appealing better to his base than he did before. He wasn't as spontaneous, weren't as many shakeups in the White House, and he's clearly being rewarded for it in terms of approval rating polls. Right now it's at one of its highest points in that we've seen since all the scandals that have just recently happened and pretty much throughout the entire 2017 year. And Donald Trump's approval rating really is at a 42%, which is not the highest, but it's certainly better than at a point where he was at a 37% approval rating, or even worse, at like a 36. Back in the beginning of his presidency, clearly he had an advantage, but he never actually received above a 50% approval rating when it came to an average of all the polls. He received some where it was at around the 57 mark, but he never actually averaged around or above 50%, whereas his disapproval rating has consistently been above 50%. Donald Trump's bringing back of the Republican Party to the generic ballot, the Trump Republicans back to the generic ballot, is something that's being shown in both the approval rating polls, which correlates directly to what we're seeing in the generic ballot poll. Obviously, the Democrats have lost traction, but the Republicans have also gained some. At this point in time, they only had around 37% of the vote. Now they're up to around 41% if you round. And the Democrats have went from around 50 all the way down to 46 to 47 if you round. And those few points can really make a difference when it comes to a national vote, because the Democrats will need an estimated 8 to 9% win in the national popular vote in order to actually retake the House. And it's not going to be easy for them considering how gerrymandered districts are. I do believe they will still carry the House, but as of right now, they are on track to possibly not carry the House. And the Republicans are slowly inching their way up, and the Democrats right now are pretty much running on a campaign that they are not Donald Trump. This is not a race. This is not an issues race. I mean, the Democrats have consistently pointed to the president as to why Democrats should come out and vote. However, what we saw in Alabama, that was pretty much an anti-candidate type place where it really wasn't shown as a referendum against the president by Republicans. When it came to the Pennsylvania race, Republicans admitted at this point that the Democrats are showing something up and they are getting out to vote. The race in Pennsylvania was not put on a national level. Conor Lamb made sure that the National Democrats did not weigh in on this election because he knew that he would lose if they did. And that's pretty much the initiative that many House candidates need to take, because this district, the Pennsylvania 18th district, was more Republican than the Georgia 6th race, and the Georgia 6th race was the most expensive House race in U.S. history. And that came from a lot of national Democrats taking funds from outside the state of Georgia, outside of the 6th district, and funding it towards John Ossoff, and he lost because he wasn't able to excite Democrats to a point where he was bringing over Republicans and independents. Let me just rephrase that. He did excite Democrats, but he didn't really bring over any independents or Republicans. He brought over a couple, clearly enough to bring him at the 48% mark, but it wasn't enough to put him over the top. What Conor Lamb did was he was able to bring over some Republicans and independents in a district that was more Republican than the one in the John Ossoff race, the Georgia 6th congressional district, and he was able to win this election. What he did was pretty much run on issues only. He didn't bring in the national Democrats. He didn't bring in funding from outside campaigns, mainly from the state of Pennsylvania and within that district, and it really paid off for him. Democrats need to keep doing that. Clearly them pointing to the president and saying, we are not Donald Trump, this is why you should vote for us because we aren't Donald Trump, is not working. It's working at a point where it puts them above Republicans by around 6%, but again, they need 8 to 9% clearly in order to win the House of Representatives back. And a 6% lead is not really correlating with what we see in the approval rating polls. The disapprove is 10% above the approve, whereas the Democrats are only 6% above the Republicans. And clearly the people who are disapproving of the president aren't so keen on voting for Democrats, and they aren't so keen on voting for Republicans. But when it comes down to the race for Congress, I do think that Democrats will be able to pick up the House, but I think it'll be by a very narrow margin. As back in December, I believe that it was inevitable. The Democrats were at a point where they could not be stopped, but we've seen the president do something unthinkable, and that's become a little bit more presidential. And it's come to a point where he could really turn this race around. We haven't seen that many incumbents not lose seats in midterms. We haven't seen it since the year 2002. And, it's possible Trump could turn this around. I still think the Republican Party will definitely lose seats. But if this generic ballot narrows down, the Senate narrows down. And the Senate possibility of going to the Democrats gets even narrower, and the Republican pickup chance gets even higher. So the generic ballot not only reflects the House, but it reflects the Senate races too, because if Democrats are losing their edge, those swing states that could be decided by 1,000 to 10,000 votes could be slipping out of their column. And if they don't get things back on track, as they did with the whole enthusiasm and all pretty much focusing on certain issues within the congressional districts, they're probably not going to win in numbers that they really could. The Democratic Party has really narrowed down, and it's not looking good for them. It's still possible. I mean, it's anything but impossible for them to win back the House, but they really need to start revamping and rethinking the way they do the selection process. Do what they did in 2006 when they were able to take back both houses of Congress, and they really excited voters, and they got them out to vote. At this point right now, they're not doing that good of a job. They were able to do it in some special elections, but keep in mind that these special elections were really centered around issues. They were centered around what Conor Lamb stands on abortion, what Conor Lamb stands on healthcare, what Conor Lamb stands on steelworkers, what Doug Jones stands on abortion, what Doug Jones stands on pretty much all the issues, and everything was focused on issues. Sure, Alabama had something to do with Roy Moore being a pedophile. Obviously, if Roy Moore wasn't one, then the Democrats probably would have lost that race. But again, they didn't point to Donald Trump. They didn't say, I'm Doug Jones, I'm not Donald Trump, vote for me. What they did was they were able to have firm opposition to the opposing candidate, which is something the Democrats haven't really focused on. They focused more on the president than the actual candidate they're running against. And they didn't really tie Roy Moore to the president. Clearly, the president endorsed Luther Strange. Then he endorsed Luther Strange, and then he lost the primary, and then he eventually led his endorsement to Roy Moore. The Democrats really shouldn't tie Republicans to the president. Sure, the disapproval is there. They need to talk about the president as to why they need to temper his power, but that can't be their only thing. As of right now, it's pretty much their only thing, with disregarding a couple congressional district races. Firm opposition to the president is something that's being talked about nationwide, and it's not going to work for Democrats. It's just not going to cut it. Right now, they're under 50%. For all we know, all the undecideds could go to the Republicans, and they could win 52 to 48, and or 53 to 47, which probably isn't going to happen, but it is possible. At this point, the Democrats, in order to be safe, need to get above that 50% mark. They need that safety, because we all know how independents voted in 2016. We expected them to go to the Democrats, and they didn't. And opinion polling was wrong when it came to how the independents would vote. But the disapproval rating of the president isn't really correlating with the generic ballot polls. The Democrats, again, need to focus on issues and not on opposition to the president. It can be talked about, but it can't be their only thing, and as of right now, they aren't doing that good of a job. But obviously, things are going to change when we come into the actual 2018 election season, but that's just something that they need to keep in mind if they have any hopes at winning back the Senate or the House. So thank you guys for watching this video. I apologize for uploading this so late. I just came back from school. But yeah, so again, thank you guys for watching this video. Comment down suggestions below. I'm trying to get my 10K subscriber special out soon. And yeah, so again, for the third and final time, thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll see you all tomorrow.